All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom? Here. Ms. Lehman?
Here.
Ms. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Nally?
Here.
Mr. Price?
Here. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from our regular meeting held April 15th, 2024, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lewis. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom? Yes. Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Lehman?
Yes.
Mr. Nally?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes, motion's approved. Moving on to legislative report.
This evening, I was not going to pass out the facts in a flash. I think what I'm going to do is share a couple comments at meetings and then announce that I'm going to send it to the board via email and have a copy available, a hard copy available in your office after the meeting. So wanted to mention a couple things as we've talked. There's some legislation going on. Some of it's very interesting, talking about the board adopting administration of over-counter drugs, requiring districts to provide age-appropriate research-based instruction on the dangers of fentanyl. So there's all kinds of interesting things being proposed. And, you know, I think some of these are covered in our policies to some degree. But, you know, when you look at something like the fentanyl issue, you know, it's a critical issue in our society right now. But, you know, the mandate that might come down from the state legislature, you know, I'm not sure is as appropriate as it should be. The other one that I wanted to mention was that I thought was interesting. The Senate Education Committee amended and passed a thing where the military enlistment seal has been renamed the military seal. It doesn't sound like that makes much of a difference. However, what they did is slid some things in there, in particular dealing with cell phone policies in our schools. And they tried to put it under that, you know, talking about the adoption of a policy governing the use of cell phones. Well, that's something, again, that we have in place. It's hard to imagine that a school district does not have something like that in place. A policy publicly available, which we do on our website. And then they'll be talking to the Department of Education and Workforce to develop a model cell phone policy. And what they're saying is putting the kind of the onus back on the district, but then it goes down to, as our policy reflects, the building principal has certain responsibilities and the teacher has certain responsibilities in terms of what their expectation is in the classroom. So a lot of issues evolving that do affect our district and our teachers. And so I think it's something, again, we need to keep up on. So what I will be doing is sending a email with this information to all of you to review, and you'll see that there's a lot of other interesting pieces when you read it. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
No walk-on items tonight?
No, sir.
Moving on to the community part of our agenda, hearing of the public. If anyone would like to address the board, they can step up to the podium, state a name and address for record purposes. I think everyone is here from Costa Rica trip, so. All right, so we'll move on to superintendent's report.
Buenos tardes, Mr. Price.
No habla.
We are so excited to have some guests that represented our trip to Costa Rica. I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to let Mrs. Senora Ward come to the podium and share something with us, please. Thank you for coming.
Uh-oh. I might have turned it off.
We've got the Spanish version of a remote control.
It was on, but now it's not.
So Andrew will fix
Oh.
everything.
Tech support coming.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you all so much for allowing us to be here to share with you our trip to Costa Rica. I'll go very quickly through the activities that we did, and then hear from everyone on what they were able to get out of the trip. On day 1 and then day 9, we were in San Jose, which is the capital. Basically every 2 days we traveled to a different area of Costa Rica. We started in the middle in San Jose, and then we went up towards the north, kind of west, where you see maybe like the Guanacaste Mountains. Like there's an area called Arenal, which is a volcano. And then after 2 days, we went to Monteverde area where we did a variety of activities. And then we went down to the coastline and got a couple beach days and some fun activities and headed back to San Jose. We started out just out of the airport. We needed to get lunch, so we went to the food court in the Modern Mall, and everyone immediately had to start speaking Spanish, or they weren't going to eat. And there weren't enough of us to kind of go around and help. And they successfully were able to get food and kind of get over the nerves of speaking Spanish. We traveled to Arenal, which is the volcano, and we did several hiking trips. And we did a hanging bridges excursion. There were 6 bridges, and they were all very, very high and very wobbly. We saw monkeys and definitely had a good time there. And then we kayaked with the view of Arenal to a little island and got to swim. And then on day 4, we traveled to Monteverde, where we got to horseback ride in the mountains. I tried to get pictures to show how high we were and how close to the edge we were. We heard a few screams every now and then, but everyone was safe. And then we went zip lining. They call it canopy there, and we got an afternoon to go shopping and get coffee in this little town of Santa Elena and speak Spanish. Here's a couple of the pictures of them shopping or visiting in the coffee shop. And we went to a local school visit, which I think a couple kids will tell you about. Planted a tree in 99-degree weather, and then we got to go to the beach and cool off. The school visit was really amazing, very, very fun. The kids got to play soccer, they sang to us, and just very neat. And then we went to the beach where the monkeys like to hang out, and got to see lots of fun little monkeys and swim. And we visited a town called Sarchi, which is known for its furniture and their hand painting of their ox cart wheels, which is one of their national symbols. And Ella Lozano, she wasn't able to make it here today. But she video.
Being able to go to Costa Rica makes me very grateful. This was
She recorded what she had. It did get cut off a little bit at the end, so hopefully you can all hear this.
Being able to go to Costa Rica makes me very grateful. This was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I enjoyed all of it. I loved everything we did, but my favorite experience was going ziplining and going to the elementary school. Seeing how happy the little kids were to see and play with us made my heart very happy. They really made my whole day that day, and I didn't want to leave, and they didn't want to leave us either. Ziplining was so fun because I've always wanted to do it. The view while being on the zipline was so beautiful, and I've never seen it before. I don't know why, but I didn't think I would use so much Spanish as I did. I was thinking I was going to talk a little Spanish and speak mostly English because I didn't know too much. I spoke a lot of Spanish there, and it made people happy. I ordered a ton of things in Spanish, and what I liked most was that some people tried to help me when using words or pronouncing things. They were always willing to help and be kind. Being able to go to Costa Rica makes me very grateful. This was like once in a lifetime.
Okay. So she told, where it cut off, she said that she told a lady at her souvenir shop that her store was very pretty, and she was, the lady was just so happy after hearing her tell that to her in Spanish, and seeing her smile made her feel good and happy, and that she knows she's better with her Spanish now and is going to speak it more. And Bridget?
Good evening. I could go on and on and on, so I'm just going to pick a few points. I went into the trip being excited to go to Costa Rica with my graduating senior, thinking it would be amazing to make those those memories, and it was, but it was so much more. And I want you to know how well the trip was organized and how well we were taken care of. Senior Award had it all covered. I roomed with her. She never stopped. She never napped. She never breathed. Our kids were so safe and so well taken care of that we couldn't be more grateful. One of our highlights was our morning of coffee on the beach. It was really early, and Laura and I went over and took our coffee from the hotel. The beach was right across the street, and just walked on the beach a little bit with our Costa Rican coffee, which is amazing. And then I look over at a tree that was full of macaws, and like 6 macaws fly out of this tree. And it was just so surreal because that's only like in the movie Rio, right? So, and then the school was amazing. Hearing the kids interact with our kids, playing soccer. And then the picture at the top right was at one of the hotels we stayed at in St. Helena. They set up the cornhole boards for our kids to play cornhole. And it was very welcoming, and it was just an all around amazing trip. Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Thank you. Wow.
And it sounds so short. Hola.
Hola.
My name is Evila Sandoval, and I'm a kindergarten teacher at Atkinson Elementary. And I just like Bridget and Mrs. Ward, there's so many beautiful things that we've seen, and Costa Rica is just a wonderful, wonderful country. But I'm going to talk about my most challenging moment and experience, which was the Tarzan jump and the zipline experience. I have never ziplined before in my life, and even when I was going on this trip, I still didn't think I didn't know how I was going to do it or not. But everyone kept saying, "Oh, it'll be okay. You can do it. You can do it." So, anyways, once we got to the zip lining, they told us that we were going to do a Tarzan jump, and it's like, okay, Tarzan jump. I have no idea what a Tarzan jump is. But then they got us all with our harnessing and everything, and they told us what with all the rules and everything that we went through, and so we had to start walking. We did a lot of walking. And up and down and up and down. And anyways, we got to the point where we were going to do the Tarzan jump, and all I see is this platform, this high platform that, with steps on it. And so it's like, okay, I'm still thinking, I don't know if I can do this, Anyways, so then I started going towards the end of the line, because and then Mr. Ward and they said, okay, Avil, you have to come to the middle. And I said, are you going to do it? I said, I don't know yet. Let me see. I got to see how the kids do it first. So I watched a couple, and I kept going more and more towards the back of the line. And it's like all of a sudden then some of the kids and this is what's so special is that I feel like we formed, we had a familia, a family. All these students and the teachers and the staff, we just formed a familia because they were so supportive. They seen that I was nervous. And then some of the kids, there was a couple of kids that came to me and said, Miss Sandoval, how about we say a little prayer with you? And it's like, oh my gosh, yes, I need that. And so we did. We got together and they prayed with me. And then as we were going, I got in the middle of the line instead of the end. And then I was climbing up the platform and there I was looking down and all I could see was, and I told the guy, I said, I don't know if I can do this. I'm really scared. He goes, this is the hardest part. He said, just, you do this jump. And he goes, everything will be fine. The next thing you know, I was counting and all of a sudden he like pushed me off the platform. And I just yelled. I all the way down, and I yelled, and I just screamed so hard. But after I did all my yelling, as you can see, I was there, and I was like, oh, I was free like a bird. So it was one of the most challenging, but most memorable. And then after that, the zip lining, we did about 6 different zip linings, and they were short. But the last 2, I'm telling you what, if I would have done the last 2 first, I probably wouldn't have never done it again. But the last 2 were, we go down really. You can't even see where you're going. You're going down so fast. And all of a sudden you're out in this open area between these 2 mountains. And you're right in the middle of these mountains, zip line. And it's just amazing, a beautiful, beautiful sight. But I did it. I did it. I don't know if I ever do it again, but I did it. And anyways, as far as familia, like I said, the teachers and the students, even though I just knew a few of them, but they were like a family to me, a familia. They were very supportive, cheering each other on, taking care of each other. How this trip has impacted my life. This trip has impacted my life by showing me that I must not take things for granted. We are so lucky to have the schools that we have, the homes that we have, everything that we have in our lives, we should not take for granted. Costa Rica is a beautiful country with its beautiful mountains, rainforests, playas, beaches, animals, and people. The Costa Ricans there, the people there are so humble, so caring, and so happy. They live a happy life no matter what. One of their favorite phrases is pura vida, which means happy life. I love this phrase. And every time I see Mr. Ward or anybody in school, I say, pura vida. How I used my Spanish on this trip? Growing up, Spanish was my first language, although I do not use it as often as I would like. During this trip, I had the opportunity to speak Spanish on a daily basis. With our tour guide, Aura, our bus driver, Osman, our Spanish teachers, Mrs. Ward, Miss Rosario, our students, and people we would meet during our excursions. Aura, our tour guide, even taught us some new Costa Rican words and phrases. For example, que chiba, how cool. Acachete is really happy, enjoying the moment. Tico is a Costa Rican. For me, it was wonderful to hear Spanish being spoken all around me. It helped me to brush up on my Spanish big time. Board, I just want to thank the school board. I want to thank you so much for this opportunity, for allowing us this opportunity to go on this trip. And I want to thank Mrs. Ward and Mrs. Rosario, because they did an awesome job putting this trip together. And I hope that's not a last one. I hope I get to go again someday. But thank you so much. Pura vida.
Pura vida.
Vida.
Hello, my name's Andrew. I'm a senior here at the high school. I don't have anything pre-made, so sorry. I don't have anything pre-made, so I'll be off the head. But the biggest thing for me with the trip was speaking Spanish. Like in America, we don't really have the opportunity to speak much Spanish with people unless it's a Spanish-speaking person. But basically, right when we landed, everything. You saw Spanish words, you were hearing people speak Spanish, and you had to talk to people in Spanish. And it put a different idea into my head because I was so used to just seeing everything the American way. I don't know. It was just a big culture shock was the biggest thing. And then I think my most favorite part of the trip was probably at Monteverde. It was the most beautiful place I think we went to. Granted, everywhere in Costa Rica was just beautiful. There's just views everywhere. Like you look out your window, we're driving down the road in a bus and it's just mountains and rolling hills. But I don't want to go up and down anymore. I just wanted to stay flat for a while.
Northwest Ohio. Yeah.
But I think honestly, it was a big learning opportunity mainly. For me, I had to pay for this trip myself. I worked for it and I paid for it. So I kind of learned the responsibility, like the dedication it takes to do something like that. And again, just speaking Spanish, being able to talk to people around me and be able to like openly speak Spanish and learn it. I'm a senior, so I've taken 4 years of Spanish, and all I've really had was speaking with students and teachers. That's really it. You don't speak it all throughout the day, but I was here. I think about Spanish every once in a while. Like I think about like what things are in Spanish, but when I was in Costa Rica, I was basically thinking in Spanish. It changed how I was thinking entirely. So all I would really have to say last is that if the opportunity came again, I would love to go on this trip. It was a eye-opening opportunity, and I would love to do it again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Alrighty, hi, I'm Ella. I'm a senior at Fremont Ross, and I went on the Costa Rica trip, obviously. So I would say, like, kind of going off of what he said, the Spanish speaking was a huge, like, it changed for me. As soon as we got to the airport in San Jose and we went through customs, the guy was already laughing at me for my Spanish because I speak white girl Spanish and I add a little E to every word, but that was fun. Also, I think my favorite thing was probably the school. When we went to the school and we saw the little kids, just to see like the difference was crazy, like how they learned and like their teachers, like they had one principal that was also running a classroom, also making the food. Like it was just crazy to see the change. And when we were playing soccer with them, I was trying to speak Spanish with the little boy, and whenever I would do something good, he'd be like, "Bueno, Ella, bueno." So that was so cute when he would just like cheer me on like that until I scored an own goal and then he yelled at me. But and then also another funny like memory I have is when we were horseback riding, and we, like they said, it was all up and down, like on the ledge of cliffs, it felt like. And there was this fence like right next to us that kept the horses in. And I kept looking at it. I'm like, is that electric fence? And I had no idea. I'm like, no, they definitely like cut the electric in the fence. Like they just use it to scare the horses. Well, eventually towards the end of it, my horse literally had me like inches away from it. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to find out if it's electric or not. Luckily, I didn't run into it. But Mrs. Rosado ended up asking the tour guide and it was electric. So I almost got electrocuted. But yeah. So yeah, we had a lot of fun though, and I am so thankful I had the opportunity to go. We had lots of fun things happen to us though, like our bus broke down, the bus AC broke, but other than that, like it was so fun, and I'm just so thankful we had the opportunity to go. And I forgot my gifts, but I have a few gifts for you guys. So. This is Ward.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, I'm not a coffee drinker, but
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if anybody wants Costa Rican coffee tomorrow, we'll be brewing this at the Cookie Lady tomorrow morning. We can try that. So
you'll be wide awake. I'm Tia Rosado. I'm one of the Spanish teachers at Ross High School. Mrs. Ward presented me with the opportunity to accompany her and the students on this trip, and I was all for it. I've done a bit of traveling before, but this is the first time that I had gone with students, so it was a different perspective, which was really neat. We always talk about what they'll use in real life, so it was very good to see them in those real life actual situations applying what they had learned in the classroom. And here them excited that other people said how good their Spanish was, or just see them having conversations that they initiated with people completely in Spanish. So it was very rewarding in that aspect. And my favorite part of the trip was just seeing all the new experiences through their eyes, whether it be the difference in culture, in the landscape of the region, or the difficulties that we confronted. So I think it was very rewarding for me to see all that, and very rewarding for them to get to have those experiences.
And I won't talk much longer. As my favorite part, I don't know. I loved it all. We were blessed with a really great group of kids, and just to see them form such new friendships. And on the slide here, you could see them swimming in a pool, playing some type of a basketball game. Up in the top right corner, playing a very intense game of spoons, right? I mean, kudos to Ella. She brought these games, and making friendship bracelets down on the bottom when we were waiting for our bus to get fixed, and just playing games together, cornhole. Miss Rosato and Abby Cahill took the championship, and I mean, that was just really cool to see just all sorts of kids. We had a couple French students on the trip speaking Spanish, and we offered it out to the school, not just Spanish students, because, you know, if they want the opportunity and we're going and we have the means. So that's kind of where we left it. And we had a student who didn't take any languages and had the best time ever. So that was very cool. And then the culture shock, I think Andrew talked a little bit about. The biggest one was you can't put toilet paper in the toilet. So plumbing's different in other countries, and then the Beatles were definitely another culture shock. So yeah, so overall it was a very wonderful trip, and thank you all for supporting us. And I don't know, we just had a great time, and seeing the kids be amazing representatives of our school was awesome. So thank you. And I do want to say also thank you to anybody who also even supported our Chipotle fundraiser nights, and we had flower fundraiser and a few other events, and I mean, anybody doing any of that was huge into helping students pay for this trip. So it wasn't cheap. So thank you.
Well, there's just one thing I didn't hear anything about. The comida. What did you guys eat? It's not Taco Bell and Chipotle, right? You went to Costa Rica for McDonald's? Understood.
Research, yeah.
That it was like our last time to really have the American experience. And we just had nothing but Costa Rican food the whole.
Yeah. So for the community listening, he said the mall activity where we got to order food, that was our last opportunity for American food. And then there was straight Costa Rican food, which consisted of a lot of rice, and the rice was good. So what? Fresh juice. Yes, fresh juice, fresh fruit. Yeah. Are there any other questions?
I just mentioned that, you know, it's neat kind of hearing that students in particular are seeing and appreciating the beauty of the country and the experience. But as a board member, what I heard was that our board approved a trip to a volcano.
There was only a little bit of steam coming out of it. They said it wasn't going to erupt for a while. So.
I'm glad you guys had that opportunity.
Thank you. Yep. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, we kick around the term authentic learning a lot in our business. There you go. It doesn't get any more authentic than that.
And I also believe travel changes lives. You're never the same, ever the same. You see the world differently. You see your own culture differently. You're never the same. So certainly on display tonight. Thank you for coming this night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenas noches. Yeah. Mrs. Hurt, you got to follow that. Good luck.
Did you bring gifts?
You have seats at your seat. There's your gift.
All right. Second up, Denise, if you would please, kind of our continue down the kind of every month we like to do some curriculum and how it impacts our students, and also obviously since you are the curriculum, or I'm sorry, the policy setting group, kind of know how that actually hits the ground. So Denise has chosen a policy I'd like to share tonight. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Price, board members, Mr. Detweiler, Ms. Parkhurst. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to follow that rough show, because they were fantastic, and I don't have any great pictures or anything. I did choose a few policies that closely work with my department in regards to curriculum and instructional materials, and they're at your seats. So we have the following policies this evening: IIA, which is instructional materials; IIAA, textbook selection and adoption; IIAB, supplementary materials selection and adoption. And then I also included KLB, which is public complaints about curriculum or instructional materials. And so quickly, I just want to kind of take you from start to finish. These policies provide us the foundation to review, select, recommend, adopt, and ultimately implement instructional materials within our district. Our current process, which is outlined in our curriculum management plan, provides us with the opportunity to utilize our own staff who are in the trenches and are teaching these materials first and foremost. These are the staff members that are directly tied to those materials. While we also try to balance that with any aligning to any legal requirements that we have that are present for us. The review process takes time. It is not a quick, it's not a quick event. We have a very thorough checklist that staff members work through, and all of those items in that checklist are aligned to items directly either to policy or to that curriculum management plan. They have to first review, we ask the staff members to first review their current instructional material, the textbook that they're using right now, and they compare that with the learning standards, the state of Ohio learning standards that they are held to teach. That gives us two very important pieces of information right away up front. Number one, does it still work? Is it still a piece of material that can still be utilized, even though it's 4 years old or 7 years old? Is it still aligned and working? Are there any gaps that we may have to fill in? Maybe it touches every single learning standard except 2. What are those gaps? What do we need to be aware of? Many times our staff are reviewing those materials, and sometimes the materials that they have work well and they're still aligned, and sometimes they'll go through the review process and not come to an adoption. So what I have for you this evening are areas on our textbook review and adoption cycle that this year our teachers are bringing forth to our curriculum, our CQCC committee, Curriculum Quality Control Council, hoping that tonight you'll take a look at those items and board approve those. So our team of teachers is where we always start. Depending on the content and the grade level, this can be sometimes as small as 1 or 2. For example, we're bringing physics tonight. We don't have a whole lot of physics teachers in the district. Department heads sometimes lean in on that. Building administration might lean in on that, or teaching partners. But also sometimes it's a much larger group. We are also bringing grades 4 and 5 social studies. So every single elementary building has a teacher for that. So they all get together and they are able to look at all of those pieces together. We look at whether or not there are built-in biases. We try to review that. We look at technology interlace. We look at does the material span and stretch the entire student population in the class? Are there availabilities to students who need some enrichment as well as maybe students that need a slower pace or need to have something re-explained. Does it give us the material in more than one fashion? So there's a lot of different pieces and parts that our teachers work through that process. All of the paperwork that came from our teachers that was presented 2 weeks ago to our CQCC committee are all present here, as well as the actual books, the tangible items. So this evening, CQCC would like to bring on your board agenda items 4 through 9 to you this evening for approval. These materials include chemistry, physics, AP chemistry, zoology, which is one of our new courses that you board approved back in December, and grades 4 and 5 social studies. So they are here this evening. You are welcome to take a look at those, and I can certainly answer any questions that you might have regarding those. Within our policies, you'll see built in there opportunity for parents who maybe want to review these instructional materials. And we encourage our parents who are interested in either inspecting or reviewing any of the teaching materials, whether it's something new or something that we have in place, to contact either myself or their building principal. And we are happy to walk them through that process and share those pieces. And then also, if any public complaints about curriculum or instruction do come our way, policy KLB guides us regarding that process and allows us for that two-way communication, and helps us to move forward. So really from start to where do we fall in the textbook review and adoption cycle, and what do our teachers need and want and like, and how does that all come together, all the way through to the final approval by our Board of Education. Hopefully condensed all of that whirlwind into just a few pieces. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Just to kind of supplement what Denise has said, I've had the opportunity to be on the CQCC committee since prior to being appointed and elected to the board. It really is a eye-opening experience to watch these policies work in real time. It's rewarding, I think, for the educators that they have a say within the parameters of the law and what is, standards set forth by the state, that they have a say in, what type of textbooks they have for their classrooms that they're teaching from. They also can look at different pieces from different companies, and just the rubric that they follow to examine whether or not a textbook fits what the coursework is and the state standards and whatnot. It's probably one of my favorite experiences, but it's just a really neat experience to see how that works from beginning to end. And I'm glad that the teachers that take teachers and department heads that take the time to go through the process, even with the reps from the companies, either being on a Zoom or being there in person, and really doing a thorough job to make sure that our students have quality textbooks that align with the state standards. I applaud everybody for that experience.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. It is definitely a time-consuming effort on behalf of our staff. They dedicate a lot of volunteer hours in order to work through that process. And ultimately it is always for the benefit of our students. We end up with some very quality pieces that can only enhance their instruction.
And these are right up there. I had the opportunity to, thank you to Julie Lockyer, who walked me through this setup here. So I had the opportunity to go through these textbooks that are up for board approval last week. Quality, and you could just read through the teacher's notes to to see that this is quality material for our kids.
So based on all the involvement by the people on the committee, how far, I don't want to say down, but into all of the teachers? So do all third grade teachers have an opportunity to see what the new curriculum information is going to be at some point before it's implemented?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, Mr. Nally. So we first of all, we always open it up to any teacher that is directly correlated to that content and that material. We don't always, and we'll ask for volunteers if anybody would like to be a part of that committee. So, for example, when it's chemistry and there's 2 teachers,
Sure.
They both happily participated. We were
Right.
very lucky.
Accurate.
Yeah, exactly. But when we looked at grades 4 and 5 social studies, and again, there's one of those 3 fourth grade teachers in each building and one of those 3 fifth grade teachers in each building. So they had opportunity during our March PD day to spend some time together as a collective group, but then they may also have conversation that, oh, you're going to look at that piece and I'll look at this piece and then we'll talk some more about it. Or you look at McGraw-Hill and I'm going to look at Cengage and then we'll compare. So they may not all see all of it, but again, much of that comes out of their conversations and their collaboration.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to, I think maybe Laura asked this earlier on, what's the typical lifespan of, like, said biology book or zoology book?
Typically right now, our textbook review and adoption cycle is we start looking every 5 or 6 years. But again, many times, when I first took this position, that cycle was an adoption cycle. And we had some years in our district that fiscally we needed to be a little more thoughtful. And so we beefed up the review part of that review and adoption cycle and added that word in there. And honestly, I think I've heard from teachers over the years that that's a very positive piece for them, because there are times 5 years may come up and they may review their materials, but these are materials that they know, they've taught with, they know the ins and outs. And if it's still aligned to their learning standards and they're happy with their piece, they may pass. And then we tack them back into that cycle. So they'll come back up in a couple years later. But typically, I would say right now, we are probably a 5 to 8 year span.
Good. Thank you very much, Denise. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. Just a couple things then for me, if I may, Mr. Price.
Yep.
I had sent the board some options. Last winter, I guess, maybe late fall, we had a visit from our success coach from football. I shared with the board some options, and I just want you to know we're still having that conversation as administration. We'll keep working on that. That's kind of what we have so far, but Denise and Sue and I are looking at kind of what to do with that, maybe a little more formal proposal. So just, we're still working on that. I shared that with your email. Yes, sir.
A comment. I think that when you sent the information out, looking at our enrollment being 1,105 students, and to see that we have 380 athletes, 37%.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that really speaks to the need for that position, but it also hits me that hopefully we structure it in a way that we don't spread it too thin, that it becomes ineffective.
Absolutely. And that's all the conversations we've been having. Even look at certain sports. I mean, even their rhythm during the week is different, right? So it gets pretty complicated pretty quickly. So we're just trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
And maybe for the audience's sake, what Mr. Nye is referring to, along with that proposals, I sent the numbers of kids who are involved in extracurricular athletics.
Right.
And it ends up being 37%. Now, some of those are two sporters, it might be counted twice, but that's a significant number of our students. And it surprised me, to be quite honest. I was anticipating 20%, but nearly 40% of our students are involved in something. That's tremendous.
Well, and then when you take it a step further with the extracurricular groups that you sent out to realize 706 kids are involved
in something.
Now, again, I think they're two different groups,
right,
most of the time. But so right now, the concentration was on the athletic group, but we need to obviously look at this other group of extracurricular.
Absolutely.
To see what
all these conversations have a lot to do with resources again too. It's all about resources and priorities for the administration, all that. So yeah, absolutely, all part of that. Thank you very much. Also, just coming up, and this also for communities and edification, our evacuation drill at Atkinson is coming up 2 weeks, Wednesday the 15th. So might spread the word. I'm going to get some alerts out. Mr. Ward will start sending out some alerts so his parents all know. A big day at Atkinson, but we'll make sure there's nobody surprised when they see a dozen first responders at Atkinson and everybody's still safe and we're just doing a drill. So that's it for my report this evening.
Okay.
Bryce, may I proceed?
Yep.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on. Facilities and operations. We have a contract here for A&G, that general fund expenditure with your approval this evening.
Can I get a motion to approve item 1, please?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. Lehman, second by Mr. Nally. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom. Yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved.
Thank you very much. Item 2 is a big one. This is our collective bargaining agreement with our teachers. We had a very successful negotiations. We got through it in good shape. Megan is confident she can certify the results and move forward. So with your approval, we would like to accept the FEA collective bargaining agreement.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve item 2, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nally. Any discussion?
We've really experienced it's just been a nice relationship. I hear stories of adversarial situations in some districts, and we just haven't had that. Sometimes we have to say, oh, we made a mistake, and we fix it, and we go forward. But for the most part, a very, very positive relationship with our union.
Good. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom. Yes. Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved.
Thank you very much. Moving into student and staff achievement. Item 3, musical instruments. You see there a sousaphone and a Musser chimes. You can see it's expensive, but also those are the instruments that make a difference in a group like that. So with your approval, we'll spend some PI money. I think, Denise, we have some funds for that too, don't we?
It's in an endowment.
We have an endowment, family
Yeah.
endowment. So
Yeah.
So thank you. It works through the permanent fund, permanent improvement, but it is an endowment from a generous donor. All right, item 4, as Ms. Hurt talked about, our 4th, 5th grade social studies. Item 5 is our AP chemistry. Item 6 is algebra 1 and geometry workbooks. And item 7 is our zoology. Item 8, our chemistry and physics. And item 9 is our iReady through Curriculum Associates, and we use that everywhere all the time. So it's one of our main tools for evaluating student achievement. So those are our curriculum issues for this evening.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve items 3 through 9, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lewis. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lehman. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom. Yes. Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved.
All right, thank you very much. Now in the staff session, Abby, here's your last chance. I don't know if you want to, any regrets or, okay, here we go. Like to accept the resignation of Miss Abby Abernathy, Director of Student Services. Something I never wanted to say in my entire tenure ever, but there it goes. Katie Gerber and Lee Guardiola, those 3 resignations this evening.
Can I get a motion to approve item 10, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lewis. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom. Yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved.
Thank you very much. And now for the good news. It's recommended the board approves Ms. Abernathy Assistant Superintendent, Step 7 on Administrative Compensation Plan for a 3-year term commencing August 1st. Item 12, following appointments, Nora Esquivel as a certified staff substitute, Brianna Guerrero as custodian, and Shelley Plant as custodian. Also certified staff subs, Rebecca Banda, Sarah Barth, Adrian Smith. Item 13, with your permission, we'll allow Josh Matz, after many years in a row, continue as our summer elementary intervention coordinator administrator. So we'll get him on board, then he'll start working on his staff. And item 14, supplemental contract for Jerica Martin to be our new head cheerleading coach. We wish her all the luck in the world, a Ross graduate, a proud little giant. Item 15, we have 8 special event workers for your approval this evening, and that finishes our personnel issues.
Can I get a motion to approve?
Did I miss one?
There's one more personnel issue.
But there's a.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that is a personnel issue.
I'm sorry. Yeah, clarify. It is personnel. The next is personnel, but we have a vote first.
Right.
Yeah, sorry.
Can I get a motion to approve items 11 through 15, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nally. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lehman. Any discussion?
Welcome aboard, ma'am.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom. Yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved.
Thank you very much. And for one more item, personnel, status change for John Willie, please.
Can I get a motion to approve item 16, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lewis. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom. Yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved. Moving on to report of the treasurer.
Good evening. Tonight, one of the big things that we just had wrap up in our office was the catastrophic costs. Huge shout out to Gina Heinlein. She front and centers handles that whole thing. She had a couple struggles this year, but a lot of treasurers that I've talked to had struggles with the same thing. Gotta love ODE, DW, whatever you want to call it. They don't play well with Google Sheets, and that is what we use a lot of. And so she had run into some issues, but she got it all figured out. And those catastrophic costs are, it's now called threshold costs. That's the new term for it. So those are some really high costs that we can claim for reimbursement through the state. So she has to do a lot of work to bring all the different contracts that we have for educating some different kiddos that have some really high costs. So huge shout out to her and how much work and time and effort she put into that to get that all done. The deadline, I think, is tomorrow to have that all done. It was all done and submitted last week. So she worked very hard on that. And then the financial report tonight, just a couple things to highlight on that. Our real estate was flat this year, but we did see an increase in the public utility. The public utility that's going to be their, pipeline. That is still an ongoing law or suit out there as to what that valuation may or may not end up being, but they have started paying at the cost that was agreed, I believe, a year or two ago. So we did see an increase in that collection, but we still don't have back payments yet because they're waiting for the final before we would see that. State funding, due to the Fair School Funding Act, is coming in right as was forecasted. We're doing very well with that. We're very happy with it, and we just need to keep that Fair School Funding Plan in. That's really helping us. Salary and benefits, they're down as of now, and we just had a third payroll in the month of March, so that's good to see. Thank you to Mr. Detweiler and Mrs. King and Mrs. Hurt and all their hard work and making sure we keep those costs down, like with the negotiations that we just went through. Benefits are up a little bit, but with us paying all of our claims out of pocket, you're going to see that with the increase in healthcare costs. And we had Mr. Detweiler just pointed out how nice our true day of cash is 95. It kind of has a little bit to do with our timing. We just had the big real estate collection, so we are sitting really pretty right now, but it is kind of a timing issue for us. And then a couple other things to point out. You will see that income tax is coming in lower than it has in the past. It wasn't something we expected, but we believe it's due to the federal tax tables were adjusted, and a lot of people had to end up paying taxes. So a lot of people also adjusted their other tax forms as well. So we're hoping to see an increase in the next quarter, potentially, of collections going up because people had to pay into their different taxes, and school income tax being one of them. So
I will say, just as a small business and doing our payroll, that was a hot mess.
mm-hmm.
The federal government did no one a benefit by changing all of that. And it went down to high school level kids that all of a sudden, they're working 15 hours a week for me. And at the end of the year, their parents are calling me and saying, we need to take more out because now I have to write a check for them to pay in for federal taxes for a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It was one of the dumbest things that just screwed a lot of people out of a lot of time and effort. It was ridiculous how they came up with those.
We have never had so many people emailing us saying, what did you guys do wrong? Because we didn't have any federal tax withheld. And we're like, here's your W-4 that you filled out.
Yeah.
And that's what the tax tables collect. And they're like, well, I owe thousands of dollars, not just like a couple hundred. It was thousands of dollars for some of these people. And that hurts. So I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Especially when you're expecting a refund.
Right. Exactly.
They get a refund. And like,
Yeah.
just kidding. Joke's on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you write us a check now, please?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Wonderful government at work, that's for sure.
Yeah. So with the board's approval for the March financial report, that's all I have for tonight.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve item 17, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lehman. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved. Moving on to board member communications. Don.
I think I've covered most of the items that I wanted to cover. Just congratulations to Jessica Michael with the child nutrition supervisor receiving the Sue Whitaker Membership Award. I don't think I fully understood the award just based on the name of the award, but it's great to see that kind of recognition of our staff. Also, the other thing that kind of struck me with Mr. Detweiler's report that comes out to us and staff was just the involvement of our students in community activities. For example, the Ross Choir and the Link group attending the Light of Hope rally, which deals with the awareness of abused and neglected children. I think that was special to see that they attended and participated in that. And then kind of a little bit of a different direction on that same topic was the Strive students getting out to Terra to see what's going on. So, sometimes we look at it, we're in that little bubble of our schools, and I think it's real important that the students are getting out and having that opportunity volunteer, and it's also neat just going through the fast food places and seeing some of our students, at the windows and working and, kind of getting ready for whether it's college or some other direction in their career. So that's all I had.
Sarah?
May is about to be Maying for the school district. We have lots of things happening in May. I feel like May is the busiest month for the district period, but all good things. So we have state testing. Some kids might disagree with that being a good thing, but state testing will continue. But we have, different academic awards. I think we just had the top 25 high school seniors had their banquet last week. Spring sports are kind of winding down and taking a turn into, tournament play of sorts. May 18th, the Music Boosters are hosting the annual music showcase. If you've never been, I would encourage you all to go. It's just a great time to see our students from middle school on up to high school, hanging out for the day, listening to some great music. They are so pumped for this event every year. I mean, there are t-shirts made, there are raffles to be raffled, lots of food. It's just a great time. I'm pretty sure the Ross Sports Hall of Fame banquet is the same day. I think you can still see Mrs. Moore for tickets, but maybe just this week.
I think that's right.
Yeah. We have prom coming up. Prom is this weekend, Saturday. So I just wanted to encourage all of the students that are attending prom, or if you're just attending prom activities, to do so responsibly. We want all of our students to enjoy themselves, have a great time, make the awesome memories that are supposed to happen your junior and senior year, but do it in a safe manner, so that we can continue to celebrate with you. And just a word to parents, if you're hosting after proms, I mean, shout out to you for that, but also do that safely, because we wouldn't want you to be one of those parents who host inappropriately and get into some trouble yourself. So I want all of our students and families to be safe and celebrate the prom season appropriately. And that's it.
Laura?
I want to congratulate Abby. I think you're going to do a great job, especially working next to Denise, and I think you guys will make a good team. I think she made a good decision there, and I'll get to know you a little bit better, and it'll be good. So I want to congratulate you since you're in here. And the Costa Rica, I mean, I guess I didn't say too much while they're in here, but I think that is a great experience. I never got to really experience anything like that, but like you said, they're going to take that with them the rest of their life. And once you see that with your own eyes, and you take your skills that you've learned, language, and speak it in real terms, and that's all you know while you're over there. I mean, that's something that they're going to remember for the rest of their life. That's neat. That's a good experience. So yeah, I'm happy that they got to experience that. And does anybody know how many kids actually ended up going? I guess I should have asked.
I think of 12 students,
kids?
maybe 6 or 7 adults.
Okay. That's good. That's a nice handful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, and the only other thing is I've been driving by the stadium, of course, and that building's coming right along.
I know.
So I can't wait to see when it's in the full swing. That's it.
Lori?
Well, that trip to Costa Rica was pretty cool. My daughter did 4 years of Spanish, but she graduated in 21, so they didn't do any trips. So, but she did get to graduate and walk, so that was a plus. And my first trip I ever went years ago with my best friend. First time I flew and first time I was out of the country all in one shot. Went to the Bahamas. It was a fun time. So, but they spoke a lot of English there. And congratulations, Abby. I think you'll be a good fit. I see you in action and other things, so I think you do good.
Be fine. And Ella, thank you for the gifts. That was super sweet of her to think of that in the coffee. I can't wait to try it. And that's it.
Thank you to Mrs. Ward and the other adults and students that were here tonight just to update us on it. I think, is that the second trip?
Yes.
Mrs. Ward has taken to Costa Rica.
A couple years ago, two years ago.
A couple of years ago. So every couple of years, that's something younger students maybe have a chance to look forward to. I'm sure the older students, those seniors, are telling them what a great time they had. So something to look forward to. I'm sure with the experiences that they have, that would be something that the school district would continue to try to do and approve and let those kids go and experience that. So, Abby, congratulations. Yeah, it's going to be big shoes to fill now at Student Services, because just like Denise in curriculum, you in Student Services, we have our local experts that know all and see all and answer every question possible, just about, it seems like. So, but congratulations on moving up. Obviously, it's you're going to do good at any position that you're at. So to have you as our assistant superintendent, as this guy decides to leave and everything gets better. So no, hey, we got to put the jabs in when we can. It's not that much longer anymore. You know, graduation, May's going to fly by. So, it sounds like I'm going to say congratulations to, there is a middle school orchestra concert going on right now, and we hear a lot of clapping and cheering as we're in here.
Well, apparently.
Yes, I think they're doing a very good job tonight.
It almost sounds like a basketball game.
It is. It's, I mean, a couple of times those cheers were pretty loud.
Yeah.
So good job to our students there at the middle school orchestra. And last thing is tomorrow is the last home high school track meet. So if anybody has nothing else to do, the afternoon is going to be beautiful. Good day to be outside. 4:30 field events start. Last time for a home meet, and it is senior night for our seniors that are in track. So with that, I'm going to make a motion to move into executive session under item B as in boy. Could I have a second to that motion, please?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nally. Just for community to know that there will be no more, or there won't be any board action after we come out of executive session. We'll be adjourning immediately. So there's no other board action tonight other than that. Roll call, please.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Nally?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Ms. Lehman?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Motion's approved. We are now in executive session.